Hey, everybody, it's Brandon Bainey from IdahoSports.com. Before we jump into this week's episode of the North Idaho Prepcast, getting that Friday morning release, we wanted to start with a little bit of breaking news. That's right, you're seeing me in casual wear. Usually I'm dressed up a little nicer, but we had breaking news come through that we weren't able to discuss on the Prepcast, and that is that the Coeur d'Alene Vikings football team has managed to fill its schedule. Now, originally they were scheduled to play West Valley High School from Yakima, Washington this week, but West Valley pulled out, canceled the game. Coeur d'Alene was left scrambling. Well, late last night, late Thursday night / early Friday morning, Coeur d'Alene was able to fill that open slot on their schedule. They will host Mount Spokane High School. That's going to be a fantastic non-conference battle between two premier programs from Washington and Idaho. That will be on Saturday at 1 o'clock at Viking Stadium in Coeur d'Alene. So Mount Spokane traveling to Coeur d'Alene on Saturday at 1 p.m. We didn't talk about that in the Prepcast because it hadn't happened yet when we recorded late Thursday evening. Speaking of, Ryan Scaggs wasn't available for this week's Prepcast, so his broadcast partner, Craig Shaver, filled in. We were having problems with Craig's video, so you'll see my face and nothing for Craig, but you will at least be able to hear Craig. And so that's really what the podcast is all about. As long as you can hear him, it's going to be all right. So don't be alarmed that you don't see Craig. We were having video problems on his end, but we were still able to have a great conversation about football in North Idaho. All right, that's enough for me. Enjoy the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody.
Bringing you the top stories from Bonners Ferry to St. Mary's and everywhere in between. This is the North Idaho Prepcast with Ryan Scaggs.
That's right. It's another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. I'm Brandon Bainey. Now, normally we would have Ryan Scaggs with us breaking down all that District 1 action, but we gave Ryan the week off this week, Labor Day, holiday, all that good stuff. So filling in is a guy you're actually going to hear a lot with Ryan Scaggs this year in our North Idaho game night. It's Craig Shaver. Craig, welcome in. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so you're going to be kind of the color guy, the analyst, if you will, alongside Ryan Scaggs for a lot of our North Idaho broadcasts this season. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, like you said, my name's Craig Shaver. I grew up in the Spokane Valley, which is just on the other side of the state line from Post Falls. Played at East Valley High School. I graduated back in 2004. Then I've been coaching ever since. Coached 13 years. Spanning from, I spent 6 years at East Valley. I was at North Central, down to Clarkston, to University High School. And then last year, most recently, I was at Lakeland High School here in Rathdrum, Idaho. So I've been around the area, pretty familiar with a lot of the teams and a lot of the kids. But outside of that, I'm married. I've got 3 kids, all girls, #girldad.
Yeah, that could
Gotta
be.
love it.
What's more difficult, coaching up football players or trying to get your 3 daughters on the same page?
Man, it's I mean, once you come across one type of football kid, I mean, they're all kind of the same, honestly. But the daughters is a nonstop, all day kind of adventure. It's I mean, it's similar in both ways, but I mean, they both have their positives, I guess. But I wouldn't change being a girl dad for anything. I get to spend time with the guys, especially when I'm out training QBs and stuff. But I get to go home to my girls. It's the best.
Yeah. So quarterbacks are kind of your area of specialty when it comes to coaching, right?
Yeah. So I played quarterback at East Valley, and then after that, I've kind of just coached and kind of followed a bunch of quarterback coaches over the area and through college, and kind of just noticed the lack of development for quarterbacks and what it takes to get to the next level. And there's no off-season training for them. So over the last probably 5 years, I've slowly grown a training for kids year-round, and it's pretty much 5th grade and up. I've got guys in college, middle school, and everything in between. So just seeing those kids develop and get the training, because a lot of the schools in the area, and I've coached it, like I said, quite a few, they don't have even a quarterback coach at some areas. So the kids aren't getting the work that they need, and I'd love being to be able to see them progress and see them reach their goals at hopefully the next level.
Yeah, it's a nice resource to have up there for sure. Are there any Idaho quarterbacks that you've kind of helped that are in college now?
So in Idaho, I'm pretty new with North Idaho as far as too much involvement. It was about 4 years ago I started a 7-on-7 team in the area, so I kind of expanded and got to work with a bunch of the Coeur d'Alene guys. So Cale Edwards, who's now at Montana playing linebacker, he was my quarterback for my first year 7-on-7. I had him and Colby Nosworthy, who's now a DB at Idaho. They were both on the team, but outside of Cale, not too many quarterbacks that have gone on thus far. Like I said, I've only been working with Idaho kids the last couple years. A lot of them have been pretty young too. Lakeland guys, Josiah Weaver, who's at Lake City right now. But outside of that, yeah, a lot of the guys are pretty young.
Yeah, I remember Cale Edwards at Coeur d'Alene. Dude was a beast. He would plow guys over running the football, and then he had a big arm too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fun to watch for sure. And I'm from Missoula, Montana, so of course I love Cale Edwards, and yeah, I'm so glad that the Grizzlies scooped him up for sure. So let's talk about. I thought you would be perfect to bring on this week because there's so many games that involve Idaho schools against Washington schools, and of course Washington is where you grew up, and you know that area so well. So before we get to the matchups, really quickly, I wanted to pick your brain on just a couple of results from what we saw last week. I think the big game, and Ryan called it what could be the game of the year up north, was that epic Coeur d'Alene Sandpoint showdown. Sandpoint got down early, rallied back. Coeur d'Alene got the game-winning field goal from quarterback/kicker Braden Bankston, and the Vikings win 24-22. I know you weren't at that game, but you have had a chance to see athletes on both of these teams. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to see some of the highlights. I didn't get to watch that game in its entirety, like I do most games in the area. I'm fortunate enough to be able to watch a lot of the games that happened every Friday night. But I mean, Ryan and I kind of talked about it when we did the Post Falls game together, or at least tried to do the Post Falls game together. I know we had some audio issues, but we kind of thought, with how tough Sandpoint looks, I mean, defensively, and then being able to control the ball offensively, it'll be a good test for Coeur d'Alene, especially coming off the big loss they had to Lehigh the week before, which is a powerhouse down in Utah. So it was good. It was another good test for them, especially coming in, I think it was second quarter. Gunner, the running back, Julio, got a rib injury that took him out for the rest of the game. So they missed him, which, I mean, that kind of caught up with them in the second half and made some halftime adjustments. I think Sandpoint was able to slow him down. I don't like to call a quarterback a game manager, but I think Bankston does a good job of managing the game. And he did just enough and then used his foot to finish it off. But Sandpoint's tough. That's a solid team. They're not light in any position. They're solid all the way around. And I was glad to see it lived up to all the hype. I know Ryan was really excited for that one.
Yeah, and I still think Sandpoint is criminally underrated when you talk to people from around the state. They don't get that respect. And I think Sandpoint is a top 2 team. I think Sandpoint really could play in the championship and win the championship this year in 4A. And of course, we know about Coeur d'Alene and everything they do every year. So it was nice to see. It was a good competitive game for both teams and a close game, which doesn't always happen when Coeur d'Alene plays Sandpoint. So other scores. So I was broadcasting the Post Falls Rigby game actually in Rigby last Friday. Rigby won 49-14. Craig, and you were at that first Post Falls game, and I was at the second. And you tell me if you saw the same things I did. A commitment to the run game from Post Falls, even though they struggled, they really don't have the playmakers that can take the top off the defense like they've had the past couple of years. They really have to grind out possessions, and they did have some dropped passes as well. That's what I saw from Post Falls.
No, and Ryan had mentioned the drop passes, and I didn't see that as an issue coming in, just because I know Carson Tucker, the new receiver that transferred in from Meade High School in Spokane, and he'd always been really dependable up there. And then Dalton Wild, who's number 1 for Post Falls, he is probably the fastest kid in the area, in the Northwest. At the Whitworth camp, the showcase, he actually won the 40-yard dash for the skill positions, which, I mean, there's kids from everywhere. If you're a dude, you were at it. So he won the 40-yard competition. So I don't know what the real, I don't want to call it an issue with the offense is right now, but I know Blaine Bennett, and he's definitely he's got it. He's got something up his sleeve. I shouldn't say up his sleeve, but he knows how to correct the offense. He knows what he's doing. Fortunately enough, it's still preseason, if we can call it that right now. So they've got big matchups coming up. So we'll see how those first two translate for the rest of the year for them. But as long as they stay healthy, I don't think they should have too many issues. They've got a lot of big time players, and they know their system. So we'll see how it translates.
Yeah, and I should mention as well, I mean, two very tough opponents to start, right? Sandpoint, 4A title contender, Rigby, probably the 5A title favorite, along with maybe one or two other teams. But, I mean, that's two really tough games to start. And I'm sure Post Falls will improve just because they're not running the gauntlet of really tough opponents as well. The other IEL team that was in action, Lake City had the week off. Their game got canceled. Lakeland, a school you were at last year as a coach, Craig, got their first win of the season. And Ryan and I had talked about it. We were really waiting for that offense to break through, and they did in a big way over Columbia, 39-14.
Yeah, no, that was definitely, I know for me, it was really exciting. I think they stuck to the running game. They stuck to what they were good at, and kept it simple. And then when they went to the passing game, they used the quick pass, the stuff that they knew that both Case and Lautzenheiser, who got to start as a junior, which I was excited to see. I know Devin Suko's had a banged up shoulder over the last couple of weeks, so they've been splitting some time with them. But Devin did play the whole second half, both on defense and offense, so looks like his shoulder's doing fine. But I mean, they both had great games. But Thomas Calder, if you don't know the name Thomas Calder, he's 23. He's a dude. I mean, you might not be able to see him in a crowd because he's about 5'0", but the kid is lightning in a bottle. He's explosive. You put the ball in his hands in space, and he's gone. It's nice to see. But I think the biggest thing for Lakeland was a question mark coming into the year was their O-line. Looked like they figured some things out. I know they're still trying to get a couple guys healthy on offense, but like I said, I think they stuck to what they were good at and just kept it basic.
Yeah, Thomas Calder started at a slot back position last year as a sophomore, or got a lot of time. So, yeah, he's definitely a guy to watch for Lakeland this year. Quickly touching on the Intermountain League, those 3A programs, coming into the season, Ryan and I kind of tabbed Timberlake as the favorite, and they have done nothing wrong. They played South Fremont, which is a really good 3A team, and then they had a big win over Shadle Park, which is over in Washington, 37-21. What can you tell us about Shadle Park? What kind of opponent was that for Timberlake?
Shadle's, I think they're in kind of a rebuild year, skill position wise. They're great up front. They've got a good front seven, both sides of the ball. They do have one dude on offense and defense, Liam Johnston, who's a great athlete, but I think they're still trying to build guys around him. And Timberlake, like you said, they had a tough one to start. South Fremont, they've got the dude in quarterback. Cayman Peebles is the dude. If you want to talk about quarterbacks, there's a guy to watch down there. So Timberlake looks nice. They look good. I thought they had a solid game against Shadle Park. And I know Ryan's talked about their offense, and anytime you face an offense like that, it's hard to contain. And they have a quarterback that can do some things. So we'll see how they continue to go. That'll be good for them. I like them as well. It'll be an interesting game when they meet Lakeland again this year.
Yes. And so Timberlake, looks good, but we thought coming in, maybe there was a big gap between Timberlake and everybody else. I'm not sure that's the case, because you had Kellogg 2-0, by the way, with a 62-14 win over Corvallis High School in Montana. That's about 10 miles from where I grew up in Montana, Craig. So I know Corvallis really well. I can tell you that they are a program that really struggles year in, year out in Montana for the most part. And it's also a level up. So Kellogg is a 3A school. Corvallis would be like a 4A school in Idaho, which is impressive. And the Wildcats look good.
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed, and he just jumped on my radar. But Kellogg's got a quarterback, and I'm sure a lot of the Idaho people know. He's also got a twin brother, but Ripley Luna, another junior. I think he outside of Parker Pettit, the Sandpoint kid, which, I mean, Parker can work on throwing the ball around a little bit better, but as an athlete, he's great. But I think Ripley might be one of the best quarterbacks throwing the ball in the North Idaho period. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see a little Kellogg, which being from Spokane and not really knowing even Kellogg football that well, having them jump on the map right now and seeing it, it's kind of cool for me to watch.
Yeah, Ripley was the IML, the Intermountain League Offensive Player of the Year last year, and as a sophomore. So you knew he had big potential, and Kellogg does bring back a lot of guys from last year's team. They always get to the playoffs. They can't ever get past the first round, though. So we're hoping that Kellogg can maybe take that next step this year. And then Bonners Ferry, I have to say I was blown away by Bonners Ferry. Grangeville is a team that we think is going to be pretty good in 2A. They're favored to win the Central Idaho League. But Bonners Ferry shut out Grangeville 53-0, which just turned my head personally. So between Bonners Ferry, Kellogg, and Timberlake, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive league this year. It should be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, there's especially when you have a third team to enter themselves in a mix like that when they blow out Grangeville. That's good. That's good for football up here. So it's exciting to see. Makes for good competition.
Yeah, and then Priest River's the other team in the IML. They played Medical Lake High School from Washington last week and were shut out 28-0. Priest River's a program that's trying to build back up. They're really young, got a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and they've been down for a couple of years. But what kind of opponent is Medical Lake for a program like Priest River?
Medical Lake's always kind of been the same way. So I know they're always young. So I didn't get to see any of their film yet. Like that's week 1 for Washington. So haven't seen anything on them yet, but I'm guessing they got a lot of guys back if they're able to put up some points like that. Because like you said, Priest River's in the rebuild, kind of always the down team. I feel like Medical Lake's kind of always on the same end in their league as well. So
yeah,
they might be on the up and up this time.
Sure. And then just the 1A scores real quick to recap. You had Clark Fork, they're 2-0. They beat Wallace 45-14. That was a nice win. Lakeside, fell to Deary. I was a little surprised, 38-18. Kootenai was shut out by Kendrick, 72-0. And then Mullen St. Regis in their season opener lost to Thompson Falls High School in Montana, 44-26. So that was kind of the rundown from week 2. Oh, and also St. Mary's is a 2A program in that CIL with Grangeville, and they lost to Lakeside High School 42-21. Yeah. That's a Washington program. Lakeside must be pretty good.
Lakeside, I believe right now is ranked 7th in 1A in Washington, according to whatever poll they're ranked in that. But no, Lakeside has some dudes. I actually work with their quarterback, Cole Hunsacker, who's also a junior. He's been starting since he was a freshman for them, but they've got a lot of guys returning. They've got a lot of speed. They've got a great coaching staff, former college players their whole, from the top to the bottom, their AD all the way down to their freshman staff and kids. They've got a solid program. So they're going to be a tough team this year. They're definitely going to go long in the playoffs. They're going to go deep in the playoffs if they can stay healthy.
Yeah. So, okay. So that was a good opponent for St. Mary's, even though the Lumberjacks lost. So, okay. This week on the schedule, the first game we have to talk about is a game that actually isn't going to take place. Coeur d'Alene was supposed to play West Valley High School, not the Spokane West Valley, but the Yakima West Valley. But that game got canceled. West Valley had to back out. And so Coeur d'Alene was kind of left holding the bag. But what kind of matchup would that have been for Coeur d'Alene? Would that have been a good test for them?
Those are two powerhouses. West Valley Yakima's always got explosive team. They've got a great program. I think it would have been good one for Coeur d'Alene. And who knows how it would have gone. I don't remember who West Valley played last week. But West Valley's always got a tough program. I know I worked with their quarterback who's now at Central Washington, Brandon Battle, who went to Montana Tech before, but they've always got a solid program. Great coach. I know their quarterback last year, I believe he's back. So should have been a good matchup, but yeah, I know there's quite a few games in the area that are getting canceled or stuff like that. Lakeside, like the team we just talked about, they had their game canceled. They were supposed to play East Valley. Unfortunately enough, they're actually headed over to Yakima to play Sella. So there are some games getting made for guys, but yeah, that's always tough to lose a game from COVID.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that in Washington, that could, because they're just getting started. Idaho kind of started a little bit earlier than Washington, and now a lot of the games over there are being affected because of that. So that's the only official cancellation that we've seen in terms of Idaho versus Washington schools. That may change between the time you're listening to this and Friday night, but we're going to talk about the rest of the matchups as if they are proceeding. And I would say the next matchup we'll want to talk about is the other West Valley from Spokane. They are playing Lakeland. I went to Stevensville High School in Montana, Craig, and my senior year, West Valley actually came out to Podunk, Stevensville, Montana, and played us and laid the whooping on us 41-0. So I know West Valley very well. But what do you think?
Yeah, they've got a program. They've had a program there for quite some time. Coach Craig, he's built a staff and kids that, I mean, they've built in, and they win. I believe over the last 4 or 5 years they've only lost 2 games, so they're always a tough opponent. They're a powerhouse for their 2A. They're definitely the favorite in the area in the 2A this year in Washington. They've got a few guys returning, but they've also got a new kid at quarterback that, again, I work with, but he's got to figure some stuff out. I believe stat wise, last week he had 3 touchdowns, but he was 7 for 10, 82 yards. But he's young. He's only a sophomore, but they've got some guys around him that are just dudes. Cameron Hawley is a big tight end. That's a playmaker, linebacker as well. So I think it'll be a good test for Lakeland. I know West Valley had an opponent last week in Newport who's, they're young. They've got a couple of guys, but for West Valley, they rolled that team, and it'll be nice to see another test for Lakeland. I think this will be a very even test for them.
So you mentioned Newport High. They're actually playing Priest River this week. So Priest River for the second week in a row is going into the state of Washington and is new. So how does Newport compare to Priest River's previous Washington opponent, Medical Lake?
Like I said, I haven't seen film on Medical Lake yet this year, but I did watch the West Valley Newport game. Just size was the only thing for Newport, and again, Newport's a 1A team, West Valley's a 2A team, so you get a lot of the size differences in that sense. But Newport's got a really good quarterback, Bear Smith, really good athlete. They've got a couple of guys on the outside, and then they've got a couple of defensive playmakers. So I think it's going to be another struggle for Priest River, but you never know. You never know. It's high school football. If one kid's got contact tracing, or you never know right now. So
yes,
that's always the interesting part with COVID season again. So
yeah, I didn't mean to jump down to 3A and then back into the IEL, but you brought up Newport, so I thought it transitioned nicely. Fine. Yeah. So let's get back to the Inland Empire League, where we talked about Lakeland's matchup. The next game that really intrigues me, I think, is Lake City. They're going all the way to Seattle to play Garfield High School. Do you know anything about Garfield?
I'm not familiar with them this year. From the 7-on-7 circuit, we played some of their guys in the past, and I'll tell you, they've always got some dudes. I know 2 years ago they had a quarterback, Javon Tade, who was a national recruit, ended up going to Whitworth University, but they had a kid that's a linebacker tight end type that was also a national recruit that makes them big time. But again, that's coming from the Seattle area, so it's a lot bigger market, and especially where Garfield's located, I know that they've got quite the set of guys to come out. So hopefully, fingers crossed for Lake City. We'll see how it goes. I know they had a week off, so they've got 2 weeks. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for Garfield, so that always helps. So I don't know how Garfield did last week, and again, we'll see.
Yeah, should be a good matchup. Sandpoint is traveling to Colville. They're going to play Colville High School.
That one got canceled.
That one got canceled as well.
That one got canceled, yes.
Okay, all right.
I believe that was yesterday morning. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I was only
Colville.
I was only looking at the games that had been announced today as being canceled, and you're right. That Sandpoint game's out. Would that have been a good matchup?
In my opinion, I know Colville lost a few guys. They had an athlete at quarterback last year, Sam Anderson, who graduated. I don't know who they're playing at quarterback this year. I know they did win last week. They've got a couple of athletes, but I don't see that as a good matchup. That's, in my eyes, I would have hoped that Colville came out of that healthy. So
Yeah.
maybe on the fortunate end for that one.
Okay. Disaster averted for Colville, maybe. The final IEL game that's going to pit an Idaho school against a Washington school is Post Falls. They will be hosting Moses Lake.
Yeah. That's going to be another test for Post Falls. I mean, I hate to see their record go to 0-3, but hopefully Coach Bennett's got some stuff changed and figured out this week going into this matchup, because I mean, Moses Lake, the tribe's always got a solid program every year. They've always got big dudes. They've always got a great running game. So hopefully Post Falls can match up with them. Hopefully they can get their passing game figured out. Like I said, they've got some guys with speed and can take the top off. We'll see. I'd love to see Dalton Wild get open.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch Post Falls as they continue to develop and figure. They're bringing in so many new starters this year too. They're kind of learning as they go, and I think by the midpoint of the season, they'll look a lot different, and they'll be rocking and rolling for sure. Other games on the schedule for the IEL this week: the Timberlake is traveling to Moscow. That should be an interesting matchup for Timberlake. That's a class above. Moscow is 2-0. But their schedule hasn't been too rigorous yet so far. And then as we drop down into the 3A ranks, the IML, we talked about Priest River and their matchup. You've got Bonners Ferry traveling to Libby High School to play the Libby Loggers. That's another game where Bonners Ferry is going to play a level above. And then you've got Orofino going to Kellogg. The Wildcats have a great chance to jump to 3-0 against the Maniacs.
I was hoping we might get a chance to see that this week, but sounds like I don't know how the audio is going to work on that, but we'll see. I was thinking I'd get a chance to finally see Ripley Luna in person and see how he does, but I know Orofino's kind of down. I believe they're 0-2 right now. So like you said, kind of going down in the league. I'd actually had a conversation with Ripley earlier today, and I told him, see what you can do against this. Let's see what you can really do on film and put together. This is week 3, so we'll see what he does. We'll see what the whole team puts together. Like you said, they're not a young team, so they've got experience.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll tell you that, Craig, you can tune into the game if you want to. You can actually watch it. Kellogg does some broadcasts on YouTube where it's every Kellogg home football game is broadcast via YouTube. And we are putting that link on our website, IdahoSports.com. So if you just go to the game streams page where we've got all the broadcasts, you'll still see Kellogg and Orofino on there. And if you click that, it'll take you to that YouTube feed. So you can watch the video of that game if you want to, and all the fans that are out there listening as well. So that'll be a good one to watch and see what all the hubbub is about with Ripley Luna. I agree. I think he's a tremendous talent and a guy to watch. The last Washington school I want to talk about, St. Mary's, for the second week in a row, is going to play a Washington opponent. They're going to welcome Freeman High School to town. What do we know about Freeman?
It'll be interesting. So Freeman actually had their game last week canceled. So this will be their first game. I know they're returning a lot of returners, so they've got a solid program. Taylor Wells is a defensive player who's a stud basketball player, defensive end type kid who's a tight end, a big playmaker for them. Bowen Phelps, who's their quarterback, is a big time basketball recruit, super athlete. So they've got a couple studs in the playmaker positions, but we'll just see how week 1 goes for them. Being as it's week 3 for St. Mary's. We'll see if they can get some things rocking after. I watched the Kellogg film. I didn't think once they clean up some stuff, I don't think they're that bad of a team. I think that the score, Kellogg put up some numbers, and I think St. Mary's is going to turn some things around. But we'll see with it being week 1 for Freeman. Yeah,
St. Mary's has some good coaching. Coach Teft down there has a good program with the Lumberjacks. The only other games are 1A games. It's Lakeside traveling to Mullen to play Mullen St. Regis. That's going to be a 3:00 kickoff in the afternoon, which should be fun to see the Tigers in action as they try to get their first win of the year. And then you've got Kootenai traveling to Wallace, and so that's going to be a fun matchup as well. So overall, a fun slate of games, Craig, and I like that. last year because of the pandemic, we didn't get to see those Washington programs. So, Coeur d'Alene had to play everybody twice in the league, and it was kind of stale. And so it's nice to get these Washington Idaho matchups again.
It's really nice. So weekly, I try to get to 2 games every week. So Thursday and Friday, but this week's going to be a good one for me tomorrow night, West Valley and Lakeland. Since we're not going to be out at Kellogg, I think I'm going to get a chance to go see my quarterbacks play each other. So it's always nice to be able to see players compete against each other and get out there and support them any way I can. So it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So have fun scouting everybody up, Craig. And when Ryan is back and I'm here, we'll bring you on maybe a couple weeks down the road and pick your brain again on some of these matchups and things like that. Sound good?
I'd love to do it.
Okay, you can catch Craig Shaver all season long with Ryan Scaggs on our North Idaho game night broadcasts on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for tuning in to the North Idaho Prepcast. For Craig Shaver, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the week games this weekend, everybody, and we'll see you back here next time on IdahoSports.com.